fresh out the box. Stop, look, and watch. Get ready, get set, because it's the Productive NFL podcast here. Straight off of our first ever Productive Cast. We watch one game together. We're going to review the other 5. Going to look ahead to the next 4. So, yes, let's review Super Wildcard Weekend. And it was very, very interesting. Desmond wasn't wrong when he said the games at first looked bad on paper, but I think at least each game had something to it. And we'll obviously get more into it. And again, as we look ahead and preview the next 4 divisional matchups, it's going to be a lot of fun. So with us is Alex Renelia, Brian McKee, and Desmond Price. Alex Young will join us momentarily. What is up, gentlemen? Wildcard Weekend. Another one in the books. How about it?
How we doing, everyone? Wonderful weekend of football.
It really was. It really was.
Yes, sir.
So let's get to it. Let's reflect on another great wildcard weekend. So it all started on Saturday afternoon out in San Francisco. Even though what's it called? Santa Cruz, California, technically.
Santa Clara,
Santa this, Santa that, all of that. But anyways, out in Silicon Valley, we saw the San Francisco 49ers take on the Seattle Seahawks. San Francisco was the NFC West champions. The Seahawks were a wild card team. And a very, very interesting first half. In fact, very intriguing. And the Seahawks were leading at half. And then all of a sudden, it went back to reality, and the San Francisco 49ers ran away with it. They win 41-23. They get another ticket into the NFC divisional round, and they're going to host that game against Dallas. But for this game itself, guys, what do you really get out of it? Is it Brock Purdy's 4 touchdowns? And he's still undefeated. Is it the fact that the Seahawks didn't make a push? And if it wasn't for Geno Smith making a fumble in the 49ers red zone, that maybe they had a chance to win it all? Lots to take in. Christian McCaffrey, nice to see him have a great playoff game and staying healthy as well. The return of Elijah Mitchell, I think, is going to help this offense a little more as well. Very, very good stuff in this game, even though it was definitely a tale of 2 halves. So what did you guys get out of it right away from the 49ers and Seahawks matchup?
So while watching this, I took 2 things away. Brock Purdy is legit in the playoffs right now. He can, deal with the stress and the pressure, and could elevate people around him better than Jimmy Garoppolo, in my opinion. The throws he's making in this game and the decisions and his mobility, he's really stepping up and playing to what they need and over the expectations that they have set for him. So kudos to him. But what I really took from this was from the losing team, the Seattle Seahawks. This was ahead of schedule. They shouldn't have been in this wild card position, but they played great in the first half. And against a team like San Francisco, you have to play perfect. You can't turn the ball over, or momentum will swing. The defense will shut you down, and then a quick lead turns into you getting obliterated. And that's what happened with the fumble. And then followed by, because it was a touchdown, a fumble, a touchdown, a punt, then a touchdown, an interception. You can't recover from that, for Seattle, and it's hard to do that. But they fought hard, and they have promise. They show promise for, next season if they get some pieces, re-sign Geno, get some draft capital. So I like what I see from both these teams right now.
You want to go next, Alex?
Sure. Yeah, so, it's a lot along the lines of what Brian said. I thought that this really, of course, was a tale of 2 halves. It was pretty evident in, both the statistics and the overall score. I thought that, Geno definitely rose and shone. He shows that he basically solidified that he is going to be a starting quarterback for this team unless they're just ragingly stupid to not move forward with him. He's earned that right as a starter. They're certainly ahead of schedule in terms of what we thought was going to be a rebuilding team throughout the beginning of the year. At least I thought that as well. But San Fran, they're just out-talented, outmanning Seattle throughout this game. They won time possession. They won all the statistical categories that were important on the offense. And Brock Purdy was able to just ride the train, stay out of his own way. He made the plays that he needed to. I thought Kyle Shanahan, dialed up a really good game plan and made, the precise adjustments that were needed going into the second half, and it played out in the scoreboard. So I thought that this is the best team, not only in the NFC, but possibly in the league going into the playoffs. And I definitely feel the same way, just more reinforced as such at the closing of this game.
Excellent point, Chanelli. Especially the fact of the matter is that the 49ers look like a force to be reckoned with, and whomever that team wants to, and whomever is going to make a push for the NFC to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl, they're definitely going to have to get through San Francisco.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when you just take the stats away for a second, just look at the eye test. The San Francisco 49ers look like the best team in the NFL. They feel complete. You don't really see too many weaknesses there. And if you are going, and any team can be beat, but if you are going to beat this team, you don't have to show up with a top 5 defense, but you can't show up with a bottom 5 defense, which is what the Seattle Seahawks did. This is a team who was 25th in points against this year out of 32 teams. They were 28th in yards allowed out of 32 teams. And the offense, Geno, Seattle Seahawks, they put up 23 points against the 49ers. Not bad, all things considered, but the 49ers literally double upped them in rushing. McCaffrey had double the rushing yards that, Kenneth Walker had. 49ers just looked dominant on offense. The Seahawks were never going to really be able to challenge them. And, I know we'll get to this later in the episode, but I'm very interested to see how the 49ers look against a better team. Because if you look back at their schedule now, they've been playing just subpar talent for 3 months straight. Their last true test was against Kansas City. They lost that game. They've won every game since then, but they've been playing inferior opponents. So I'm really interested to see how they stack up against a better team in the Cowboys this week.
And real quick, Matt, too, that's a good point, Desmond. They've been home essentially for 3 months, which is really, kind of a testament to both their team, but also their schedule. But yeah, I thought this just in the pregame warm-up that we did 2 weeks back, I thought that a big key to this game was Kenneth Walker. Can he extend drives for this team and, take some pressure off Geno to make every single play? And he just came up a little too short for us.
Didn't work this time, but joining us now is Alex Young. Good to see you, Alex.
What's up, guys? Sorry.
No, you're good. Talking 49ers and Seahawks. How'd you feel about it?
It was what I expected. I would love to see a little bit better from Geno, but see kind of a upset story happen. But 49ers just too good. Like I said in our prediction, they're so deep, and Purdy just did Purdy things and beat up that defense. So it was what I was expected. I know that the 49ers came up with a slow start, but they turned it around as they usually did, and just pretty much whooped the Seahawks.
Yeah, well, thing to mention too, and we'll get more, we'll wrap it up here, and then could talk more 49ers again when we talk about their divisional matchup. But Brock Purdy, mentioned by a couple of gentlemen in this chat, I think Brock Purdy shows that he could be a starting quarterback for real now, and he at least should be the starting quarterback of the 49ers going into next season. Trey Lance, sorry, that's just the name of the game, and Jimmy G's definitely going somewhere else, whether it's the Jets or any of the other teams that are mentioned, but it seems like the Jets are a real popular one. But Brock Purdy, he impressed you as much as he impressed me overall and for the future ahead?
Absolutely. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, I mean, I know we were kind of waiting to see if Jimmy G was going to come back in this playoffs and giving him the extra rest, but right now, just ride the hot hand. You don't even need Jimmy G right now. You just got to keep on rolling with Purdy. He's killing it.
He hasn't shown a weakness. I mean, I'm not saying he doesn't have one, but he hasn't shown it yet. So, I mean, there'd be no need to go away from him since he's had such a string of excellence start of his career so far.
I would wait to see, because when guys don't have tape on a certain guy, it's very easy to thrive and succeed. And he's in the best possible situation right now with the coach and the roster. So I would give it another 6 to 8 starts next year to see how he fares. But right now, as of this assessment, he has no weaknesses.
I would say this: he really hasn't played a quality pass rush yet in his starts. Outside of, I'm looking at the Commanders right now. So going against Dallas, that might be the difficulty spot. Actually, the difficulty spot, against a very good pass rush. Seeing him, making decisions under duress. having to step up in the pocket.
But the good thing with the 49ers is their offensive line is incredible. So, yeah, they also has that bearing for him, too. So,
all right. So, moving on to the other game that took place last Saturday. Oh, I love history-making games. So, late in the second quarter, in this matchup of the Chargers versus the Jacksonville Jaguars, there was a point where it was 27-0. And Trevor Lawrence threw 4 interceptions in the first half. And yet, I don't know what happened. Even if Peyton Manning says halftime adjustments, who really does halftime adjustments? Something took place in that locker room. They went into the second half down 27-7, still a major hole to climb out of. And they pulled it off. The Jacksonville Jaguars won it 31-30 on. They top it off with a final Riley Patterson 36-yard field goal. And Jacksonville gets a huge playoff victory. Trevor Lawrence continues his Saturday undefeated streak. Doug Peterson shows that, wow, he really is a great coach in this league. And the Chargers, who were fighting and pushing through the whole season, get to the position, have an early exit. Looks like Brandon Staley is out here. At the time of this recording, they fired their offensive coordinator. It seems like it's only a matter of time that Brandon Staley is next, or we'll know. Who knows? Stranger things have happened. But Jacksonville Jaguars pull off the third biggest comeback in NFL history. And how can you not like this game? Did every single one of you think it was over by half? I certainly did.
I think we all were laughing.
If you go back to the receipts in the group chat, I said the Jaguars will win this game.
Oh man, were you drunk or high when you said that?
Neither. My issue is that
receipts.
Brandon Staley just is not a good game time decision coach, and he makes outlandish game play calls throughout the game that while you have a lead of this caliber, you shouldn't be calling. Like this is when Austin Eckler and Joshua Kelly should have got in the second half each like 15 carries and not throwing the ball around where, you got to control time and possession. And they couldn't do that. And then once Jacksonville started humming, they got complacent, the Chargers. That's the issue. And then once, you're on your heels, someone pushes you over, it's really easy to fall. And that's what happened right there. It was a very slippery slope. But also like Jacksonville is built like this. They're a blue collar, hard nosed team. They have great players. And they believe in their coach, and they believe in what everything that's going on down there. And the home field advantage definitely kicked in here, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Whether you're the Falcons, whether you're the Colts, now whether you're the Chargers, why is it taking so many teams so long to realize no lead is safe, run the ball more often, and make sure you chew that clock out so you win this game? A third fatal example of that within the last 5 years. Ugh.
Well, I think I don't mean to jump in here, but I think that they kind of packed it in and got too conservative in the second half. They kind of got away from their identity, almost overreacted preemptively coming out of the locker room. I thought that, again, I'm still putting 80% of the blame at the feet of Brandon Staley, but I think it's for the opposite reasons. I think that they just got too complacent, too conservative, and I think they got away from what makes them great. And it doesn't help that Eckler's in a contract year where he's kind of not playing for his contract, and that's been kind of representative in all the games and the production that he's put forward in the past 18 weeks. So I just thought that this was kind of an epic collapse. It's very Chargers-esque, and it just goes to show you that again, not only just the tale of two halves, but no lead is safe, and Trevor Lawrence looks like the real deal.
Yeah, I was going to say, I completely agree with Alex. Our chat thread is hilarious. Pretty much, Desmond goes too soon and says, one of us picked the Chargers, wasn't you guys. Then Alex responded, total choke job by Jags. And then Brian comes in, like you said, with the receipts. Jags will win, comeback season. Let's go, Jags. So
just pulled it out of nowhere.
It was just, I don't think any of us saw this happening other than Brian. Somehow, again, he's the weird predictor of things and events of the production of Series football team. But
I try.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Alex said. It was very weird that the Chargers switched up their game plan at halftime to not doing what was working well and not trying to kill and play chew clock and dominate time of possession. They were just felt like they were rushing, and we all thought Trevor Lawrence should get benched, but then he quickly showed us why he was the first overall pick and probably one of the best quarterbacks, young quarterbacks in the league. He just kept on firing, kept the confidence. Didn't let it deter him, and he just got this team back. But yeah, I mean, I was just shocked with this game plan for the Chargers coming out of the half. They literally gave this game away to Jacksonville by not, trying to dominate time possession or try to take some shots or be more aggressive or doing what was working in the first half when you're up 20 plus points. So yeah, just an epic collapse by the Chargers. But kudos to Jacksonville. I mean, your quarterback throws multiple picks. Usually your defense is tired. They're gassed. They all stuck in there. They all were clutching the whole second half. And Lawrence just, kept his confidence. He didn't let those picks deter him. And everyone just, rallied behind him. And, this is why they are where they are right now. So impressive win all around by Jacksonville.
I'll definitely mention this in the fact that when you have such a star caliber quarterback like Justin Herbert and the ability of his arm, it's such an advantage that sometimes it becomes a disadvantage, and that is not being a balanced team. You see a ton of quarterbacks in the offense they are placated to their one strength, and then it takes years for it to become balanced again. Look at Green Bay. Green Bay, took 5 years to get at the Aaron Rodgers-led offense to a balanced offense, almost a more run-dependent offense this season. And it's the first season that we really didn't see it humming between them and not really a good record on that part. So it's like trying to stay balanced in these game time decisions, of going conservative with the lead, but then going away from what you're good at. It really, in my opinion, falls on the head coach of not in the offseason, addressing the elephant of the room of this is our weak link. It's the run game. We need to learn how to actually, control games with the run game and not dinking and dunking and, deep passes over the middle and stuff like Herbert knows best. So yeah, it's definitely a learning lesson for them.
There's not a whole lot to add here. Don't got a whole lot of meat left on the bone, but I'll just say this. I think that this is another classic example of a coaching staff getting too caught up in ego and arrogance. Like, from playing football that you are at a disadvantage if the defense can predict what you're going to do. And when you consistently just drop back and pass again and again and again and again, the defense knows what's coming. And then you get held out to only 3 points in the second half, with literally another 3 points would have been the difference in the game for the Chargers. Also, going away from the run, there was no advantage to that. Like, even if you're only getting a couple yards per carry, you're still keeping the clock moving. You might get a couple extra first downs that you didn't get from all the drop passes the Chargers had. At a certain point, I know that this offensive coordinator got fired for being a scapegoat, but because they're trying to keep the head coach. I mean, they're going to keep the head coach. They wouldn't have fired the offensive coordinator if they were going to fire the head coach. So it should fall on him, but we're going to get another year of mediocrity out of the Chargers, which I guess if you're a Chargers fan, that sucks for you.
For the three that are out there and are proud of it.
If you're ready, it's great for you.
Well, like I said, impressive win for Jacksonville. This is a team that is, as everybody said, they have a great future ahead. And why don't they, why not? Anything's possible for the future. And we'll talk more about them with their game against Kansas City. But hats off to Jacksonville. And we know major changes are coming for the Los Angeles Chargers. Now let's talk about this game. The Buffalo Bills played the the Miami Dolphins. They won only 34-31. At one point, what was it? I think it was the spread after Skylar Thompson was brought in was 13.5 points. And at first, you thought, wow, maybe Miami does have a chance in this. Running the ball well, using their great receivers that they have. Buffalo having major holes on defense. Buffalo really struggling at one point. Ultimately, the Bills, I guess, snapped out of it in front of their home crowd. and on top of some very questionable play calling and clock management issues that the Dolphins had, ultimately the Bills pulled it off. And it helps having Cole Beasley and Gabe Davis touchdowns on top of that. But it was ugly, it was long, but the Bills pulled it off. My question to start, if you're having a tough time against this Bills team, starting a third string quarterback with many questions, with a team that was really slipping through the mud in the second half of the season, what exactly went wrong here? And we'll talk about how they can match up with their divisional game against Cincinnati this weekend. But what went wrong with the Bills, first of all? How could they let this game get so close that it was?
Well, I think it's the continued issue with Buffalo this season, and it's Josh Allen. Josh Allen is currently the weakest link of the Buffalo Bills right now, and their best link at the same time. He's this amazing, flashy player. He could use his legs. He could throw the ball the entire football field length, amazing touchdowns. But he makes poor decisions, risky throws. He causes interceptions, a lot of interceptions this season. He had, 14, which is second most in the NFL this season. And if you look at the play-by-play for this game, Buffalo was 17-0 at one point. And then, Miami had a field goal, interception, another field goal, a punt, field goal, interception, and a touchdown, and you're tied up going into the half. And then Buffalo got that field goal again to get the lead. But, 17 unanswered points by a mediocre Miami team just because of the quarterback play, against a team like the Bengals, you're going to lose. Joe Burrow is not Skylar Thompson. Joe Burrow right there, they got field goals on Skylar Thompson got field goals off those interceptions. Joe Burrow would get touchdowns. You'd be losing by 2 touchdowns at half instead of winning by 3. So, they really have to shape up. I don't know if that means being more balanced and relying on the run game and doing some play action, or just like having a conversation with him and just being like, don't do stupid throws, like actually go through your progressions. But, that's the debate that, throughout the entire year is what's going on with Josh Allen.
Yeah, I want to build off that point a little bit because they were going through some tape of that, today on ESPN. And, what they were pointing out was that Josh Allen's consistently like looking for the big play down the field, and he has wide open wide receivers and tight ends underneath in like the 7-yard range, 10-yard range, but he's constantly looking for Gabe Davis down the field and like these big chunk plays. And it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It almost feels like Josh Allen kind of like hit like a little bit of a regression here where he's just not seeing the field as well. Like I keep going back to that Thanksgiving game, but I feel like up until that point, he was playing MVP football. And since then, he just has really taken a step back, and it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense other than maybe that injury. But that doesn't make any sense. Why would that be affecting his decision-making process at all? So not really sure what's going on there, but I think the Bills will go as far as Josh Allen's decision-making goes this year, because if he executes at a high level, I think the Bills are still the best offense left in the AFC.
Yeah, I agree with everything. It's weird seeing Josh Allen because it's not like he's like regressed with his arm. It's not like he's just like dumping off passes. He's still taking shots down the field, and they're just not connecting. He's trying, I feel like, to go for these flashy plays, like Desmond said, and it's flashy kind of offense when he needs to dial it back and just take what the defense is giving him. I mean, the Dolphins did have some pressure on him at times, but it wasn't enough to really throw him off his rhythm as much as he did. And I don't know if they dialed it back because they were up, and the next thing you know, then it becomes kind of this close kind of shootout game. It was weird, but there's definitely something going on with Josh. And again, I don't know if it's more of a mental thing and all that, but he's like, I don't think it's the arm at the end of the day. Like, I think his elbow's doing better because we're still seeing him bomb it down the field. It's not like I said before. It's not like he's doing these just constant check downs and maybe like a 10-yard pass. He's still making. So it's he's just kind of off rhythm, but it's concerning because I think a lot of us had, high hopes for this Bills team, and we just see this game and our like perception of them has changed. Like, we're like, they can't do this and expect to beat the Chiefs or the Bengals or whoever. They have to be perfect, and it starts with Josh Allen.
Yeah, and I think that the original comparison to Big Ben when he first got drafted was pretty apt because of the body structure, but also the arm and the decision making. And some of this is the negative side, implying that decision making. My real concern, I mean, you guys, I don't want to belay the same points, but I think one incision that we haven't made here is that I want to know who has his ear in moments of this, because every time the camera pans to him on the sideline, it looks like he's frustrated, obviously, but no one has his attention to bring him down. He seems to be fuming. He seems to be frustrated and confused. And originally, I think that Brian Daboll usually probably would have fit that mold for him. It's evident in the numbers. He's had 14 interceptions this year, one off of his record from last year. But I just think that Leslie Frazier and McDermott are both defensive guys. I just don't know how well they can really get in his ear and bring him down to a cohesive level where he can get back in the game and produce the best football. I still think the decision making is off. He hasn't looked good for 6 to 8 weeks, leading up to Thanksgiving, like you guys said. And it's going to be a real concern against, Cincinnati, because week after week, they may not be the best team on offense, but they're definitely dialed in and they're very, very tight. They're very precise. And Joe Burrow is an exemplar of that.
Well, what I think of a lot is that his offensive coordinator is Ken Dorsey. And if anyone remembers Ken Dorsey, he was a very animated quarterback for the U. And he's extremely frustrated. There's been multiple clips this season in the booth of him like flipping out, throwing stuff. So it's like that translates down to the quarterback as well. When you have a hothead OC, you're going to get a hothead kind of decision making in the quarterback, because Ken Dorsey wants to air raid and sling it. And, sometimes you don't need that with that many talented people on your roster. You just need a game manager. Like, really, like Buffalo needs – Josh Allen should just game manage right now, and they will coast to the AFC Championship game.
Don't think, Josh. Just don't think. I think he's thinking too much out there. And the things with Miami, despite not having the number one running back, and like I said, third-string quarterback, still put up a fight. I don't think it's as much of a mess as people really thought at one point. Now, specifically after this game, there's clearly something to work on. Mike McDaniel is fine to get his another year. He did get that team to the playoffs after just being short last season under Flores. And watch out whether it's Tom Brady coming in for the Dolphins or what. But at least they put up a fight.
Can we give him his flowers on because I thought they put up more than hell of a fight, and they've been going through hell all season with injuries and adjustments with with Tua's health and then Teddy Bridgewater's health and not having Raheem Mostert. So definitely want to give a lot of love to McDaniel, because we kind of shat on him when he got picked out of the pool based on the demographics, but he really showed up and showed that he can coach this year.
I like him. People give him flack. People give him flack because they don't put anything, because they don't they're too bland and plain for those. He's just a chill young late 30s dude who's brilliant. He went to Yale. He knows what he's doing. He helped develop that great 49ers offense. And I think the guy's golden, and we'll just see what else he could pull off in the future. And the only other question is, did he vape on the side or not? And again, I talked about this in the productive cast. I don't think he vaped. He would have seen some smoke come out one way or the other. And,
let him vape. Who cares?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
That man is stressed.
Well, he can relax in Miami for 6 months until training camp, so it'll be okay for him. Now, let's talk about the game that took place at 4:30 on Sunday. The New York Giants went out to Minnesota and played the NFC Central Division champion Minnesota Vikings, 13-4 versus a 9-7-1 team. And guess what? The New York Football Giants won their first playoff game in 11 years, where you saw Daniel Jones play the best game of his career. Good time when you have your first playoff game to do that. Saquon, even with minimal touches, still made an impact on the ground game. Isaiah Hodgins shows that a team that has been criticized for having a lack of weapons, that he is a legit one. Darius Slayton played well. We can give a pass for that drop he made towards the end of the game. Things worked on defense. They held Justin Jefferson, as we mentioned. If you can stop him, you can win this game. 7 receptions for 43 yards and only 1 reception in the second half. The Giants played a hell of a game and have a lot of momentum going into Philly this upcoming weekend. I'll give it to the Giants fan to start it off. Who would have thought we would not only make the playoffs, that we win a playoff game? And Brian Daboll is clearly the coach of the year, and anybody who doesn't think so is a fucking moron.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think that we've been waiting 10 years for this moment to get another playoff win. It's kind of wild. But yeah, I mean, I said before, this is just the gift season that keeps on giving. And, you know, I was confident going into that game as a Giants fan. I thought they were going to play tough. Did I expect us to walk away with a win? Honestly, no. But just early on, just seeing the Giants come out aggressive. Daniel playing a clean game, no mistakes, didn't let the Vikings fans get to him.
Nope.
It was just an impressive game all around. You know, Justin Jefferson's ripping apart, you know, play after play on the first drive. They held him, I think, to like 25 yards the rest of the game after that. He had like 4 catches for 24 yards in the first drive. And then after that, we shut him down. And which was a key to the game for, I think, for me at least, was the key to the game was limit him. And they did that. And, you know, they kept the game in distance the whole way. And I didn't think the Giants were going to put up 30 points. They did. And Daniel was just unbelievable. I think he's just proving everyone that it really was coaching at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That was stunting his development. He needed the right coach. He needed the right coordinator. He got that. And he has another leader right next to him, is Saquon Barkley, who takes the pressure of leadership off him. Just seeing what Saquon was doing on the sidelines, especially after the Darius Slayton drop on 3rd and 15, where he pretty much iced the game. Just seeing him go over to him and say, like, we're fine. The defense is going to get us. You're good. It was just a great moment from this young team. You know, and future's bright. I know the Eagles are going to be a tough matchup, but it was a hell of a game, a hell of a win. Just so impressed by how everyone came up and played. I thought with this young team that it was going to be a struggle at times, but it wasn't. They look like a bunch of veterans out there. And like I said, I think the key takeaway, and it's great to see, you know, Daniel Jones get all the love and praise that he deserves, especially the season that he's had, when a lot of us, including myself and probably you, Matt, at the end of last year, thought he was done, and thought that was it for him. And I know it's a make or break season for him, but I want him back. I want him to be the Giants quarterback. He cemented that on Sunday, and you know, I'm looking forward to another game that we'll talk about in more depth against the Eagles. But all around, just incredibly happy, and this season's just been just incredible. I'm like speechless, but yes, it's been so much fun.
Good word, speechless.
I'm gonna interject here and answer your question, Matt. I saw this coming. First of all, you Giants fans, I said they would beat the Commanders. I said the Commanders wouldn't go to the playoffs. I said y'all would lose to the Vikings, but then use that blueprint to beat the Vikings. And you did, because the Vikings were frauds. We all knew it. We all said it. The Vikings were frauds, except for Alex Fernelios. He kept apologizing for them, but Vikings were frauds. So no, this was a great game. Honestly, I was saying this yesterday. Best game I've ever seen from Daniel Jones. Ever. Like in my entire life watching Daniel Jones play, he was very decisive, very on point, seemed to not only know what he wanted to do, but made the right decisions, was very instinctual about when to run versus like when to sit in the pocket and look for his receivers, even if they would occasionally drop it. I mean, offensively, it was great execution by the Giants. You know, unfortunately, their defense kept playing like they weren't able to figure out how to stop anybody. I felt like TJ Hawkinson was open every single play, but
he was the
one time
heel.
they covered him was the one time that they needed to, when, you know, Kirk decided to throw that 3-yard check down to lose the game for them. But yeah, no, I mean, all in all, tale of two halves here for the Giants. Great on offense, shaky on defense. I hope they kind of maybe go away from that zone coverage that wasn't doing anything for them, you know, going into next week. But great game for the Giants. And Minnesota, like, what do you even say about Minnesota? Are they ever going to win a Super Bowl? Can we all just agree that Kirk Cousins is a mid quarterback and we need to stop referring to him as a good quarterback? He's just not a good quarterback.
Yeah, I was saying before, like the Vikings historically cannot make it in the postseason, losing 4 Super Bowls in the 70s. As I mentioned, from missing in the 98 game, the field goal against the Falcons, Blair Walsh, all of that. Messy, messy, messy. And I appreciate that the curse extended at least another season for them. I don't think that is a historic NFL franchise that doesn't get enough hate that it kind of deserves, because in a way you are on a level somewhat for these terrible losses with the Lions, the Jets, the Browns, obviously because you had success early on and are, I would say, respectful franchise in the league, but they've had just as many terrible losses, if not more, than the franchise I just mentioned. And some franchises just have a losing culture like that when it matters the most.
I think they have to worry about the fact is Diggs left because of Kirk Cousins. Like there's no debate about that. It's been said he thought he had a ceiling playing with Kirk Cousins. Is Justin Jefferson going to feel the same way? Because Justin Jefferson, the way he is right now, imagine he had a Trevor Lawrence or a Patrick Mahomes or a Joe Burrow. The man would have 2,200 receiving yards a season and break every record every year the way he's playing right now. So I don't know. If I'm Minnesota, I'm really looking into the trade market right now. Who's available? Unfortunately, Aaron Rodgers will never, unless he gets released, Aaron Rodgers will never get traded to you. Derek Carr is definitely an upgrade, in my opinion, over Kirk Cousins. Because, yes, you could say Kirk Cousins had a good season and he didn't turn the ball over, but at the end of the day, I don't trust a quarterback that doesn't know situational football and it's 4th and 8 and you throw to a guy a 3-yard route. It doesn't make sense to me. That's the kind of play that you don't even get a job ever again. You just don't even ever even become a backup. You're just gone from the league, washed off because you need it. Like that's a common sense in that situation. Anyone knows. A kid playing Madden knows, oh, if no one's open, I'm just going to throw it up and hope a PI call happens because it's better than just checking it down and getting a tackle and the game's over. So it's inexcusable.
It really is.
Yeah, I was just going to say on Cousins, I think he's a great regular season quarterback. I think he's a really solid quarterback, but he's just never going to get you over the hump. He knows how to win games, but he's not dynamic enough that he can win you a Super Bowl. That's the thing I think that all of us have seen, especially on that 4th and 8 where he checks down to Hockenson hoping that he can break a tackle when our best tackler is pretty much lined up right on him. So, yeah, I think he's never going to get anyone over the hump, but he can win you enough games to get you to the postseason.
Right. I want to add one quick thing in here. It's not like this guy's been in the league for 3 years. Like he's been in the league for almost a decade now.
A decade,
probably, yeah. It's like a decade. At least,
we know who he is. Like we don't have to guess. Like that is who Kirk Cousins is. He's a regular season quarterback. He is Carson Palmer. You put him in the postseason,
wow.
he is Wilts.
That's a good comparison. I think, I mean, I don't want to move too far ahead in terms of the predictions with the Giants in the next week, but I thought that they did some really, really impressive things in terms of containing Dalvin Cook and Justin Jefferson. It's going to be something, of a formulaic approach to how they defend Philadelphia. But I was just so impressed with Daniel Jones. I gotta just say, because I was down on him most of the year. I was just kind of straight shooting about it. I don't have a dog in the fight when I assess the Giants, but I just thought that, having a new regime, having Dable in there, he was going to scrap the board and wipe clean next year. But I think that Daniel Jones played for his job and secured it, at least for another year. I was highly impressed with the wheels that he has, the ability to move out of the pocket when things break down. Hodgkins, I hope that, I know he's listed as questionable with the ankle. I hope he's able to go against Philadelphia. We'll have to get an update on that too. But just the defense too, just applying pressure. Dory Jackson had 6 tackles and there was a huge assist he had on one of those tackles as well. So I just thought it was an all around impressive game on 3 phases, and I think there's a lot to carry into the Philadelphia game.
Yeah, I think it'll be fine. We'll see Hodgins out there on Sunday, and it's going to be a lot of fun indeed. So now he transfers it over to the Ravens versus the Bengals. Bengals' first game back in Cincy after what happened with DeMar Hamlin. They're ready to get a good win, try to focus on the future. And another game that they thought might have been another messy blowout was, again, a lot closer than they thought. And again, the team, the underdog, was leading at half, but again, the favorite became themselves again. And maybe it took where we have Joe Burrow coming in with a better second half and taking over once and for all. They give props to the Ravens for tying it at the end of the third. And then all it took was a fumble return for 98 yards with Sam Hubbard, and it led them to a big Cincinnati victory. But shouts to the Ravens and that very good coaching staff to keep it in it, especially that defense. But Joe Cool, knowing how to stay cool, calm, and composed, was able to get their team for a victory. And they're now going to Buffalo for a very big game on Sunday. So with this, let's talk about the Ravens first. We talked all about Lamar Jackson. He didn't come into play. They had Tyler Huntley. When we were recording, it was Antonio Brown who was supposed to start, but Tyler Huntley wound up getting the start. And he played a really great game. He kept him in it. They pushed, getting big leads late in the game, or I should say later in the game. And it could have gone either way if the Bengals made any mistakes. But that's one of the things the Bengals are known for in this Joe Burrow era, to not let the pressure get to them in the big moment. And we saw what happened. And you could give props to the defense for getting that huge fumble recovery, and it could have gone either way. So Cincinnati moves on, but Baltimore, with their uncertain future ahead, especially with their starting quarterback, do we at least give them props? Did you at any point feel that the Ravens were the one to pull off this upset?
Yeah, I thought the Ravens were going to win at some point. I personally think that they played the better game than the Bengals, defensively for sure. Like after watching this game, in my opinion, the Baltimore has the best defense in the league, outside of San Francisco, and it's a shame that they didn't have Lamar Jackson, because he just adds such a different dynamic. Even though Tyler Huntley is, a lesser of a Lamar Jackson as an athlete, and he does some things like him, he isn't Lamar Jackson. And, in my opinion, they would have pulled this upset off with him. They had some moments, if you think about it, they almost tied it up on the Hail Mary. If Prochet, jumps a little bit sooner, he catches that ball off the bobble. So it's definitely a possibility. Looking at the Bengals, you lucked out, you beat the Ravens, and you just beat the best defense you'll face in this entire playoffs. Unless you make it to the Super Bowl and the 49ers are there. But as regarded to the AFC, you just had your hardest opponent, defensively, Joe Burrow, and you won. So I see them coasting to the AFC Championship game. But yeah, a lot of good things taken. Joe Cool's Joe Cool, but Baltimore has a lot of decisions to make this offseason, because this is a Super Bowl caliber defense, and if they get some pieces on offense, they could really be dangerous.
So I want to take this one from Brian here at the baton, because I think he started opening the conversation about Lamar. I thought that Baltimore played a more complete game. They won on every statistical offensive category. I thought they dominated time possession, so on and so forth. Obviously, Huntley did the best he could with the circumstances given to him. But the elephant in the room is, if Lamar's there, they're winning that game. And I don't see it any other way. I thought that
J.K. Dobbins felt the same way too. He literally said that after the game.
And I've been bullish on, Cincy being the best team in the AFC. I still think that they will prevail as being the best team in the AFC to represent. But I just thought that, there's no secrets when you play a team for 3 times in 1 year, like these divisional rivals. And I think that Huntley did the best he could, but it's really just, it's tough watching a team knowing that they're withheld from being their best because Lamar's injured. And, it's another conversation to have the minutia discussion about, how injured or what he could have played on in that circumstance. But I thought that Huntley played a really noble effort, and I thought that Cincinnati was tested all the way down to the wire to what they could what they could handle. I think that, like Brian said, that is the best defense that I think Burrow is going to face, particularly when you add the element of a longstanding divisional rival on top of that. It just adds another level of predictability that he has to get over the hump of in terms of what the defense is going to read in terms of his passing game. So, yeah, props to Cincy, but I thought that Baltimore played their balls off, and I think they deserve to win that game. I really do.
Yeah, like I've said, I think when we were talking on the live stream the other day, like the AFC North is always weird. They always play each other extremely hard. No matter who is playing quarterback, no matter who's in the game, it's always a battle. So props to the Ravens. I think everyone thought they were going to get their asses handed to them, but the defense showed up. Burrow and the offense just wasn't clicking early. Like Alex said, I thought the Ravens did deserve to win. They probably could have hung on to win if they didn't have that fumble return touchdown right on the goal line there. They could have hung on. But that changed the momentum. Defense gave a big play, and the Bengals held on, which is what great teams do. They find ways to win and advance. And but I think they really have to look at the film because they were nearly upset by a very inferior team to them. I think a lot of us think the Bengals are the team to come out of the AFC. But similar to the Bills, I think the perception changed a little bit. But again, we all kind of know that the AFC North is always a tough fight, no matter where, when. So props to the Bengals for hanging on, but like I said, the Ravens deserve a lot of props because they stuck in there and almost snuck out and got an upset win.
Everyone raises their level of play in the playoffs. So while this Ravens defense might be better than the Bills defense or the Chiefs defense, for instance, there's no guarantees that the Chiefs defense or Bills defense couldn't rise to the occasion the way that the Ravens defense just did and use the blueprint of what the Ravens did against the Bengals in the upcoming weeks. So I think the Bengals need to be on upset alert because they might be like just position by position better than the Chiefs or the Bills, but they did not seem to know how to react to how the Bengals were defending them the other night. And they only scored 17 offensive points. I mean, this game was 17-17 when that fumble return happened. The Bengals didn't score an additional point after that. So, I mean, the Ravens with a backup quarterback almost went into Cincinnati and beat this team. I think the Bengals need to really be on high alert going into Buffalo this week. All the emotions that are going to be around that game, especially, given what happened the last time these two teams played. The Bengals probably have enough talent to win that game, but we'll see.
We will see indeed. And now transferring over to the game that we all watched together, the productive cast that took place on Monday night. Big success. Thank you for everyone who tuned in and everybody involved, of course. So in this game we witnessed together where the Cowboys defeated the Bucs by a score of 31-16. Clearly the Cowboys came to play and the Buccaneers did not. And it was pretty messy if you're a Buccaneers fan. And whether we see Tom Brady again, that's one question, but a fun thing that is for sure that he will not be returning to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A mess throughout. It could not connect on either side of the ball, and the Cowboys took advantage of it. So we'll give it to the Cowboys fan who hates the Cowboys. How are you feeling after this game?
I'm excited. Dak Prescott played like the money he got paid, so I absolutely love to see that. I was disappointed in the running game. They had 128 yards combined and a touchdown, but I just, Pollard had a good game, but still, the Zeke Elliott decline is just constantly in my mind and is shown every day. 13 carries for 27 yards, and Pollard has 15 carries for 77 yards. I'm sorry, but at this moment in time, the rookie Malik Davis, who is more explosive, deserves Zeke Elliott's carries. That when instead of Zeke right now, Zeke has basically become a red zone running back, like a Jordan Howard almost when he was on Philadelphia towards the end of his career, just being a big guy that could put his head down and get you 2-3 yards. So it's a disappointment if that's age at the running back position. Dalton Schultz really stepped it up in this game with 2 tutties and 95 yards. He's always been the safety blanket for Dak Prescott. He's like the Jason Witten to the Tony Romo for them. CeeDee Lamb had a great game. Gallup had, it was just a complete game on offense for them, and the defense showed up. There was a couple of injuries on defense, so yes, we're going in banged up on a short week against San Francisco, so I'm a little concerned. But I'm excited because, if anything, it would be nice to beat the 49ers just because everyone thinks that they're going to be the Super Bowl favorites. So I like that better. And, why would I want to see, imagine if I lost to Philadelphia, like who wants to see that embarrassment? Everyone would talk shit. So you know what? I'm excited for this matchup. And Tampa Bay, I really have nothing to say except they're hot garbage. And a lot of retirements from this offense. A lot of retirements are needed. And, you all agree with me. Yesterday, Mike Evans is the most overrated receiver in the NFL.
Not a good game for Mike Evans, and when it mattered the most.
Buccaneers look terrible. We all were saying it. This was definitely one of those cases where they did not belong in the playoffs. They got in because of the automatic division slot. So, I mean, just not a whole lot to say about them, to be honest with you, except for one thing, which is Leonard Fournette. I think his career might be over. That was a horrendous stat line by him yesterday. So he needs to be gone from any NFL team as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, the Cowboys showed up and dominated like we all thought that they should. I think the Buccaneers were getting away with too much of the whole oh, you can't bet against Tom Brady juju.
Mm-hmm.
We've all watched this team all year. The team sucked. They were not a good team. They had a struggle to come back to beat the Cardinals and the Saints. In overtime, I guess the Cardinals, on Christmas Day, it was just, no, this was not a good team. The Cowboys needed to win this too.
They needed the Rams to come back too, which is
the Cowboys had to win this game. If the Cowboys lost this game, Dak Prescott would probably not be the quarterback for the Cowboys anymore. So they needed to win this. They did win it. Off to San Francisco. Let's talk about that game.
Yeah, Mike McCarthy is here to stay too, and
fortunately,
so sad.
All right, who's up?
I can go real quick. I don't really have much. I agree with Desmond with Leonard Fournette. We briefly talked on the live stream, about Todd Gurley. Just kind of a similar thing where for a little bit, if you look at it, Todd Gurley was like a top running back, and then the knees started falling apart, and then he fell apart. I'm seeing that right now with Leonard Fournette. He is young, and he should have 8 more years in this league. But there's just something going on. His body's beaten down, just all the mileage is catching up to him. It's unfortunate. He'll probably get another shot because of his age, but he's not the running back that we saw in college dominate briefly for a little with Jacksonville and then briefly with the Buccaneers. He's just a shell of himself right now. Could be a confidence thing. It could be a health thing. He just doesn't look the same. He doesn't look as dynamic as when they won the Super Bowl. And I think just seeing my game plan that I had for Dallas was to get to Brady, make him feel make him feel like the pocket collapsing, all that stuff, make him feel pressure. Then I gotta say, Michael Parsons showed up. He balled out yesterday. Props to him. I think all of us were looking at him needing to have a big game, and he did. He was drawing holds. He was just all over the place, wreaking havoc. So props to Parsons. Dallas needed to win this game. We needed Dak. We said, during the live stream that, Dak needed a Daniel Jones-esque performance. He went up beyond that, proved that, he can lead this team to some success. Wasn't surprised with the outcome. They have a tough matchup here, but I think it's going to be a fun one to watch, but not surprised with the result here at all.
Yeah, no, I mean, we're kind of talking in circles in regards to the outcome of this game. We all watched what we saw. I thought this was definitely 100% a referendum on Tampa. Just an entire, collapse in real time of what was left of their season. I think that all the blown coverages we saw on the live stream, the live cast, really, exemplified that. I thought that, Brady was disrupted all night, partially in part to Michael Parsons and all the work he did. He was sensational. And Dallas just executed their offense. I mean, they basically did what I expected them kind of to do all year in terms of executing the offense and the game plan. And I thought that Dak was perfect. He didn't do anything out of the ordinary that got him, in any trouble. and I thought that they were kind of on par in terms of the running game that I expected. I think that Tampa's going to blow this thing up, and I thought that particularly, I think the emphasis for me was on Dan Quinn and his defense and him being able to shut down Tampa. But I want to give a 50-50 blame to Tampa Bay and their inability to be able to move the ball. I thought that the offense was just very predictable. There was a lot of short throws that were just falling short. People looked confused. They looked half participatory. This was a total domination by Dallas, and Tampa, I think, is ready to blow things up.
Yeah, just one last thing for me. I think it wrapped up Tampa's season when Mike Evans, yet again, streaking downfield, wide open, and he dropped a wide open touchdown. I think that was
right through the fingertips.
The period mark on their season. I think it was kind of, the game was done at that point. Could have given them a little bit of momentum, but I think that just wrapped up their season. It was just the definition of the season when he just had a wide open touchdown right in front of him and he dropped it again.
He's the best worst receiver in the NFL. I'll make this comment as well. I think Tom Brady's done. This game proved it to me that he cannot play quarterback efficiently anymore in the NFL because all the current situations that are open right now for him to go to don't have good O-lines. So wherever he's going, he has to do this. Maybe Miami, but it looks like they're going to stay with Tua. And
if he doesn't retire.
If he doesn't retire, I don't see it. He had a 45-year-old quarterback throw it 66 times in a game and expected him to win. I'm sorry, but thank God they didn't win. He wouldn't have an arm after this game.
Nope.
But there's one situation that makes sense, but I just don't think that the team would be willing to do it.
San Francisco?
Denver.
Denver.
You put Tom Brady in that Denver team with that defense, that offensive line, those receivers, he would work there.
I think
the Bagman took that opportunity.
The only last point I want to say before we move on, because we'll save this entire large discussion about the approach for another episode, but I think that Byron Leftwich particularly did a major disservice on display the other night. I think that he was really exercising, a growth in his capital as a coach, a formidable coach in this league. I think that he kind of got humbled and taken down a few pegs. I think that there's going to be some more reconsideration with him in the league. Yeah,
a lot of people think he's a favorite to take over as the offensive coordinator in Pittsburgh. That's what I heard.
Okay.
That seems the most formidable one. I know the Jets need a coordinator, but why do that to yourself?
It's a whole other
like you said, that's a conversation for another day.
Right.
But with that, why don't we look ahead and preview the divisional round? As people say, this is the best weekend of football, bar none, where you have clearly the best 8 teams left. And I really think a solid 6 of them, 5 of them, you can argue can win the Super Bowl all in all. So we have a great weekend of football ahead. So let's get to it. We're going to go through each game one by one by this schedule. So when it starts on Saturday afternoon, the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to Kansas City. The Chiefs off their bye, the number 1 seed in the AFC. They are opening at -8.5. We have Jacksonville with this special. Yeah. Sorry. No, you're good. You're good. So we have Jacksonville with this great season, making a real push and stuff. We have the Chiefs being the Chiefs. I don't think it's exactly a surprise that the Chiefs are in this position, despite losing their number one option, Tyreek Hill. He goes to Miami. They literally didn't take a step back. They only moved forward. Now there seems to be more options for Mahomes to do his thing. Travis Kelce has another good year, improvements on defense, and they are the favorites going into this. But again, Jacksonville has shown that they will not go out without a fight. And can they do that in Arrowhead Stadium? Guys, what do you say?
Since I blurted out to give Jacksonville some respect. Not saying they're going to win this game. Not saying that. I think Kansas City will win this, but I think Jacksonville is all momentum right now. The 8.5 is too big of a spread. I think you have to give them some respect for what they just did coming back down against a decent offense in the Chargers. I think it's going to be a fun game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I really don't. I think it's going to be a battle at Arrowhead. I know that stadium's wild to play in, especially in the postseason. But I'm expecting a fun battle between the two of them. I hope it's a shootout. I think Kansas City is going to win in a close one. But I think the Jags are going to cover because I think they're going to try to keep that game close.
I think the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to upset the Kansas City Chiefs.
Ooh.
He beat me to it. Damn it.
I think
you
I
got
think
to jump in. You got to jump in.
I think they're going to do it, and this is why. If you look at it, let's just look. We're going to do the eye test. Jacksonville has a better defense. The Chiefs' defense doesn't. They don't turn the ball over. That's their biggest problem. And in a game like this, you need turnovers. Now on offense, Jacksonville is the poor man's version of the Kansas City Chiefs. I've said this the entire season. If you wanted to get a Happy Meal version of Pat Mahomes, you would get Trevor Lawrence. If you wanted to get a Happy Meal version or a dollar menu version of Travis Kelce, it would be Evan Ingram this year, just in styles of play. In my opinion, Christian Kirk is better than Juju Smith. Zay Jones is better than McCole Hardman and Valdez-Scantling. ETN is 100% better than Pacheco and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Trevor Lawrence just showed that he could throw 4 interceptions and then throw 4 touchdowns and win a game. This is
the game's on Saturday.
And the game is on Saturday. This is the most frightening opponent for Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs. They're coming in with a little groggy. They've been sleeping last week in the bye. They think they're going to roll through this game and then play the Bengals or the Bills in the championship. This is all set up for Jacksonville to win by a field goal.
I was sitting here looking at it, and I was having the inner debate with myself. I'm like, am I actually going to pick the Jaguars? I was trying to talk myself out of it. It's kind of lining up for it. The Jaguars have an underrated defense. They've been locking people up the last several weeks here after having not a great start to the season. It's going to be an unseasonably warm game in Kansas City, which, typically I think is going to actually favor Jacksonville. They're not going to have to go into a really cold climate like Kansas City is used to having this time of the year. And it's supposed to rain. And the Chiefs are stubborn about not really running the football that much. They just want to throw it all the time, and I feel like the Chiefs also have a really bad tendency of just not taking an opponent seriously sometimes. And I think it gets the better of them. And I think Jacksonville's very underrated. I think Trevor Lawrence proved that in clutch moments, he can be clutch. I think this has a recipe for a close win for Jacksonville. I really do. I think high scoring, 27-24 type of a game, or 30-27 type of a game, but Jacksonville by a field goal.
I literally had 27-24 Jacksonville over KC. So I don't like that, sir.
Am I the only one? I'm the only one picking the Chiefs, I guess.
No.
Casey
we're sort of in agreement. I mean, I'm reading the tea leaves. I'm looking at kind of the same approach that you guys are talking about in terms of Chiefs kind of sleeping on opponents, getting complacent, getting away from the run, even when they have to be honest with it, putting a defense on its honest side. I just think that Jacksonville has all the momentum. They're riding into this game in a climate that's more conducive to their offense and running ETN and doing play action with Trevor Lawrence. I think that his throw to the fire in the first half of that first game was a wake-up call for him not being able to take things for granted, having 4 picks and then having to be resilient and show adversity in the second half. I think he's going to just pick up where he left off from that second half in this game. And I think that this is tailor-made for them to continue the run that they're on. And honestly, I just got to say, I just trust Doug Peterson more than Andy Reid at this conjuncture right now.
Yeah, that's one more point I wanted to make really quick. I mean, Doug Peterson knows Andy Reid very well.
Yes.
And in previous times when Doug Peterson's been in the playoffs, he's never been afraid to be aggressive in moments where you think to yourself, oh, you couldn't do that in this position. And he would do that in that position. So, I mean, the Jaguars are not going to be afraid to go into KC and face the Chiefs. No chance.
Nope.
By the way, for the weather, like Desmond said, it's going to be 40 degrees and with a 66% chance of rain. So pretty warm still for Kansas City in the middle of January. So not going to be freezing.
ETN time. ETN time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gonna be ETN and all the 14 running backs of the Chiefs rotate like there's no tomorrow. Shout out to Isaiah Pacheco, though. He went to Rutgers. I saw his development
good,
there
man.
from college. I mean, I go to a lot of Rutgers games, and I saw him, and definitely deserves all the credit that he's getting right now. He's a solid running back.
Yeah, I think that Kansas City is going to pull it off. I do think they will put up a fight. I think it'll be entertaining. But when you just have Mahomes, who only ends the season, well, with the exception of last year, when Mahomes only ends his seasons in either the Super Bowl or the conference championship, I think they're just going to continue that streak. I think they are playing a much better team than the Chargers that they had struggles with. And I think that Patrick Mahomes is just going to lead their team to victory, but it's going to be a fun game.
I'll make this last comment on it. The Jacksonville defense has to play like the Buccaneers did in that Super Bowl win. You have to pressure Mahomes. It's the only way you're going to beat him. You have to get him uncomfortable, and you have to get him to start making stupid decisions, like throwing across his body off of one leg. Because in those moments, you have guys like Rashawn Jenkins who can get an interception and take it to the house, and that's what they're going to have to do.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Well, let's talk about this other Saturday game. I am so happy that we have both sides being represented on both fan bases here. The New York Giants are going to Lincoln Financial Field to play the Philadelphia Eagles in a classic division rivalry game. Only this time, a trip to the NFC Championship is on the line. Right now, we have the Eagles opening at -7.5. And though they are the number one seed, some people felt like the last few weeks have been difficult for them. Jalen Hurts, is he the same MVP caliber player he was at the beginning of the season? There are problems with holes on their offensive line, and people are wondering if Lane Johnson's going to be there. With their historically good offensive line, didn't every single one of them make the Pro Bowl? And I mean, that's a force to be reckoned with. But of course, the New York Giants have been on this magic run all season long. They cannot have more momentum than they have at this point, and it's going to be a fight. I think the spread is a little too big, but I think it's going to be a battle of who wants it more, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And as I bring both my podcast and professional side into it to properly analyze this game, but of course, I hate the Eagles so much. I've seen them nothing. They've done nothing but beat the Giants since I've been a fan, whether it's 2000, 2006, 2008. I've seen a lot of heartbreak. The Giants haven't even won a game in Lincoln Financial since 2013. I want the Eagles to be embarrassed. I want those degenerate Philadelphia Eagles fans to be held accountable, and they're the ones who are stomped to the ground. And I want people to be embarrassed. I want people to cry. I want this to be over. Philadelphia sports has had a nice run, but it's time to stop right now. It's been a long decade for us to get into that NFC Championship, and I will go with both my head and heart and believe that the New York Football Giants are going to win this game and get this upset once and for all, even if it has to be an ugly way to get there.
Desmond, you want to go? I mean,
no, go ahead,
want to
Alex.
respond?
Yeah, go ahead.
Matt, I'm not going to go into the angry side that Matt went into and call you guys out. I think we had said other than Desmond, because like he is really not like the traditional Eagles fan. Like it really is. But to all the other Eagles fans that are going to probably be raucous and annoying, yeah, I'm the same way. I do hope that they get their hearts ripped out in that stadium by the Giants. I mean, I can't root for the Eagles. I'm never going to pick the Eagles to do anything good. I'm never going to pick Philly to ever do anything good. Even in the Super Bowl against the Patriots, everyone's like, "Oh, you're picking the Eagles?" Hell no, I'm not picking the Eagles. I'm not even siding with the Patriots. I'm not. I'm just going to watch the game. I was like, I'm not. But they said Eagles. I was like, hell no, instantly, no. Oh, but what? No, you can't go with the cheaters of New England. No, nothing. So yeah, I want the Giants to go in there and keep this run going. It's going to be a battle. It's going to be a tough matchup. I'm not going to take it lightly at all, especially after seeing what they did to us at MetLife.
Mhm.
And then we played the third string, in the last week of the season, so we didn't really get a true testament. But the Giants played well there. I think it's going to be fun. I really hope it is. Daniel's going to come in with that same confidence he had against Minnesota in a probably even more raucous arena than Minnesota, especially as this rivalry game. I hope he shows up, balls out again, and we come out away with a win. It's going to be tough. They have a lot of offense, two great receivers. If Adoree Jackson does the same thing he did on Justin Jefferson against Devontae Smith, I think it'd be great. Or Brown, whoever they have him matched up against. But I think his game plan is just getting the Hurts. Sometimes he struggles against the Giants. I don't know what it is, but I hope it's the same thing again. He comes in, and I hope the Giants defense really is aggressive early on, makes their presence felt. And I want the Giants to come away with a nice win here.
We need the Giant. This is a great example. Remember when Devontae Smith got drafted, they literally traded the very pick in front of us to get him. Can you imagine if we can hold him in his first ever playoff game? That would be some poetic justice.
I wouldn't hate that at all. I want to have the Justin Jefferson stat line. Have a great first drive, go for it, but do absolutely nothing the rest of the game, buddy. That's what I want.
The floor is yours, Desmond.
Yeah.
Please have some candor.
So honesty train, I root for the Giants twice a year, every year. And it is the games where they play the Cowboys, because that's how my hierarchy of hate works. So Washington feels like the little brother who kind of like, if they ever get the better of you, you'd kind of just like smack them to get away. You're like, okay, you're still annoying. Just get out of here. And then the Giants, I've always had respect for them, even though I don't like them. They kind of like that older brother you're just trying to like compete with. And the Cowboys are like that, just annoying person that you can't believe you're related to, and you just wish like bad things upon them all the time.
Thank you. All of us attacking each other. This is rivalry week for a reason.
Yeah. I actually did root for the Giants both times they faced the Patriots in the Super Bowl, just because I was willing to drop my dislike of the Giants for a greater cause on those days.
Sorry, couldn't do the same.
Me neither.
I would throw up. Sorry.
It's all good though. It's all good.
Brian
you know what?
Westbrook.
Honestly, when it comes to this game, I mean, I'm intimidated by facing a divisional opponent in the postseason. You face somebody 3 times in a season, you know everything about them. There's no guarantees in a given game. I know people on ESPN, people who do this for a living, they'll be like, oh, the Eagles are going to blow them out. I don't believe in that for a second. I think this game comes down to 2 things.
Never take anyone on ESPN seriously except Stephen A. and SVP and Mad Dog.
I like the people on NFL Live. Mina Kimes, Swagoo, Daniel Orlovsky.
I don't really watch them to give. I don't watch them to give.
Ryan Clark. Those are my
Ryan
people.
Clark's very good.
Yeah. The NFL Live crew is very solid.
They're like Tampa Bay last night.
I hate Booger McFarland though.
He's not on there. He's not on there.
Oh, I know. Just in general for ESPN.
Yeah, no, he's not a good analyst. But I think what I'm trying to say here is that I think it's going to be a close game. And I think that for the Eagles, it comes down to 2 things. We need our offensive line to be able to establish the run game, and we need our secondary to be able to lock up the receivers. I actually want this game in Saquon Barkley's hands, because he hasn't looked super efficient no matter how much they feed him the ball. So I kind of think that our advantage is kind of making Daniel Jones basically have to keep like relying on the run game, taking the ball out of, especially after last week. I don't think you could actually put the ball in his hands and be like, okay, Daniel Jones beat us. He just did it to the Vikings. I don't think we should do that plan. I think the Vikings tried to do that, failed for him. I'd rather put it in Saquon's hands and ask him to actually see if he can continuously run on us. Thankfully, Lane Johnson is back. Jalen Hurts is not on the injury report anymore.
Okay.
Robert Quinn's going to play in this game. Our full defense is, I think even CJ Gardner-Johnson he might be in. Actually, I'm not sure about that. But either way, it looks like we're coming into this game relatively healthy. I think that this is going to be a close game, maybe a little more low scoring, maybe like a 21-17 type of a game. Obviously, I'm picking the Eagles to win, but I'm looking forward to kind of like a smash mouth game.
Bring it on. And another gripe. Remember Daniel Jones's infamous run against the Eagles in prime time, where he literally fell
Turf
on his
monster?
face.
Yeah,
This is
I remember.
another
Turf
reason
monster.
for him
The turf
to
monster.
redeem himself. I mean, as you can see, just this long list of Eagles hate. And I really do hate him more than the Cowboys, and I'll stick to that. And they just give a run for money and just want something to change.
Well, one thing before we give it to Alex and Brian, last time I checked, the Eagles have the least amount of Super Bowls in the division. So, we could pump the brakes here about like the Eagles, like, dominating the Giants. Dominating the Giants. I'm just like, hold on now. Who has 4 Super Bowls? I mean,
for what I've seen,
Brian Westbrook would be the bane of my existence. He tortured me as a kid.
Was a beast.
He tortured me
Boston
watching
Scott.
as a kid.
5'9", just carving defenses up for like a
That was, I
decade.
think, the first player I legitimately didn't like as a kid when I was in the stands watching Giants game. Because he would, every time I would go Giants-Eagles game as a kid, he would destroy them.
Same here. Boston Scott's been a giant killer.
Yeah.
I just don't like Philly. I dated somebody from Philly. Well, she's a Steelers fan, but I'll just give another reason to hate Philly sports just because. I want this to be a terrible memory for the Philadelphia Eagles fans. And I'll leave it at that. So for the other 2 people who don't have a dog in the fight, Alex and Brian.
It's up to Brian. It's up to Brian first. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, so like with me, like would I love to see the Giants win? Absolutely. Like that would be awesome. Fuck Philly. We all know that.
Philly.
Yeah, the Eagles the Eagles are better in every position. I'm sorry. It's very hard. It's very hard to beat this Philadelphia team. Especially that you guys played close in the last game of the season, and they had most of their starters starting, and you had your third stringer starting. So that
we put up a good fight against them. So So how can you go and say that we all suck in every single position when that's the case? That is a terrible take, Brian.
He didn't say we sucked at every position.
I'll explain.
They're better at every position.
They're better in every position, and
which I can agree with.
Talent doesn't always mean W's in this situation, because if that was the case, Dallas would have like 10 rings in the last like 20 years because they always have one of the best offenses in the league. But it comes with momentum, and it comes with swagger, and who needs it more? And in my opinion, the Giants just won their Super Bowl. They won a playoff game when they weren't supposed to be there. They are definitely in house money time now. They're playing, they're playing. They'll see what they could do, change it up and everything. But Philly has to win this game. This is the Jalen Hurts prove-it game that, hey, you outbeat Carson Wentz. You became a legitimate quarterback when everyone didn't believe you. You got to leave Alabama to prove yourself. Now you're in a playoff game again. What can you do? And this is what he has to do. You remember, they were in the playoffs against Tampa Bay last year, right? They got smacked around. He had a bad game. Mm-hmm. He has to play well. And, I can't rely on Daniel Jones going back-to-back games of 300 yards and 2 touchdowns yet. I see him doing that every other game, but not back-to-back games. Saquon's shaky. And, they have the best defensive front in football right now with the Eagles. So I'll go with the Eagles by a touchdown, but it can be, just depending on turnovers, it could easily be the Giants game.
I want this to be a bad memory for the Eagles and Brian McKeon on this one.
So I like considering myself when these discussion topics come up. I consider myself the centerpiece of the NFC East circle jerk on the Christmas Thanksgiving table. I love watching because I feel like I can be the only objective lens to what the predictive outcome could possibly be. I see Philly winning this by a field goal, and I think this is going to be a high scoring game. Again, when you see his team for the third time in a year, there's no secrets anymore. I think it's going to be just coming down to a battle of wills, who wants it more. It does concern me that Jalen Hurts has been out for well over a month. And I understand that's preservation, but a lot of it rides in momentum when you get into the playoffs, particularly the second round. And I think that the Giants will come out smash mouth. I think they're going to put pressure on Hurts real early in the game. And I think that as long as the Giants play a no turnover clean game, I think they can hang with Philly as long as they can go. I think this is going to be about extending drives for Philadelphia, controlling the clock, and not playing any risky football, really keeping the turnovers down and committing to diversifying the offense and just playing your offense, playing out the clock, so to speak. And I think that they should cash in on most of their scores on their possessions. But I think that ultimately it's just going to come down to who has the ball last. And I think that Philly will prevail by a field goal.
All right. I hear you all out. Great takes. But at the end of the day, this New York Giants franchise has been pushed and have been huge underdogs and against the ultimate underdogs in an undefeated team going into the final game of that season. Excellent points. I'm still picking the Giants, both like I said, both fan and heart, and understand that it could go the other way. But at the end of the day, this Giants team has so much momentum. This team is so well coached. And this team is going up against an Eagles team that was not looking as good as they could have been a few weeks ago. Giants, if they win it, put some respect on that, especially Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley, and put up a fight, guys. Put up a fight. Get hyped like Xavier McKinney did and inspiring that defense. And let's keep it going. Let's go Big Blue. All right. Sunday afternoon, the next game on the slate, we have the Bengals going up against we have the Cincinnati Bengals going up against the Buffalo Bills. Obviously, the last time that these two teams played, he's had unforeseen circumstances. I'm so happy a few weeks later, it's a much different story with a Damar Hamlin on a road to recovery. But now, here it is. This is the playoffs. They're going to Buffalo, and the Bills are opening at -5. And as we mentioned, the Bills have questions. The Bengals have questions. But who's the one who's going to answer their questions the most? That sounded more smooth in my head.
I'm taking the Bengals all the way. I think they're going to completely rout the Bills right now. I have no faith in the Bills defense and the dysfunctions of Josh Allen right now. Would I like to see them win the Super Bowl this year because of the Damar Hamlin story? Absolutely. But I don't know. This Bengals team, in my opinion, is better on offense. It has a more sound defense. Bills might have the better athletes on the field, but the Bengals right now just they played their worst. They played the hardest defense last week, and now it's getting easier with time. So, I'm taking the Bengals here by at least a touchdown.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Bengals here too. It's just with Buffalo, they just look so inconsistent, and they come out of the same gates that they did against the Dolphins. If they do that against the Bengals, I think the Bengals are going to take advantage early and put them away. I have faith the Bills will compete in this game. It's probably going to be a close one. I just like the Bengals overall a little bit more. And the only thing I really don't like on the Bengals is Eli Apple, but that's for personal Giant effects. And I think he's just kind of a limited corner. But as my camera goes out, sorry about that. My camera's being weird. But it's going to be a fun game. I'm going to have Bengals winning on a field goal here. I think it's going to be a close battle, but I think Bengals are going to take the Bills.
I like the Bengals as well, but for different reasons. I think this is actually a battle of the defenses. I think you have, looking at the Bengals defense, for the last 5 games, they've allowed less than 20 points. Meanwhile, the Bills' home field advantage in Orchard Park hasn't been that much of a home field advantage. I mean, the last 3 home games, they've been scored on 23, 29, 31. I just think that Joe Burrow facing Buffalo's defense is going to be able to carve them up. And I think that Josh Allen will struggle against the Bengals defense. And on the flip side, Joe Burrow will probably be keeping his offense on the field more because he is very completion oriented. He's very check down oriented. He throws a lot of passes out of the backfield to Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon's a better running back than either of the running backs on the Bills lineup. So I think that they'll get more conversions, keeping the Bills offense off the field. I legitimately do not see a path for a Bills victory here. I know that sounds crazy with how great of a season the Bills have had and how good Josh Allen's been. I think this is a 10-point victory, 34-24 Bengals.
Wow. It's hard because my heart says Buffalo. My brain says Cincinnati, but I was really disconcerted, and I understand that this was probably the stiffest competition that Cincinnati was going to see this past weekend, um, facing Baltimore. But I just think that I didn't see as much as I had hoped for with Cincinnati. I thought that Baltimore outplayed them on all three phases of the game. It just kind of came down to a turnover, and you know, I have grave concerns with this team going into the Buffalo game, particularly on the road. I understand that there's a lesser, home field advantage with Buffalo, but I
Yeah,
I
you're
don't know.
doing that thing in your head, right? You're just like, I can't do it. You just can't do it.
I'm like there's so many neutralizing factors with both of these teams. Like Buffalo is gravely unimpressive, and Cincinnati plays tight games with teams that they shouldn't. And I'm gonna go with Cincinnati. I'm gonna go with Cincinnati on a game-winning field goal. McPherson rewind from last year, but against KC, I just think that Cincinnati will just find a way. I think Joe Cool will just muster out a win. And I think that this is going to be it's going to be back and forth. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of factors involved in this game, but I think that Cincinnati by a nose is just a better team, and I think that Buffalo has a lot bigger issues than we want to give it credit for.
I want to make one final point here. I know that, I think the Bills and the Bengals and the Chiefs are going to be like this decade's version of the Patriots, Colts, and Steelers from like the 2000s, where they just take turns going to the Super Bowl every single year.
The triple threat match.
And I know that people are going to give a lot of hell to the Bills after going out again in the second round, I think 2 years in a row. But I really think that the Bills are just maybe just the right offensive coordinator away from helping Josh Allen see the field better.
Yeah, and they gave away the one who could have that, and he now coaches the Giants.
Well, that's my referendum on Buffalo. That's why I'm gravely concerned, because I think if they did have Dable, I would say that they're a shoe-in, they're a surefire hit for the Super Bowl. But I just have so many concerns with what I've seen since Thanksgiving, essentially.
And don't forget also, there's no Von Miller. That's a huge hole in their defense for Buffalo as well. And that's a thing to really concern.
Too.
Yeah. So major injuries are going to really affect this team. And I guess for a respectful franchise with such a great fan base, kind of like the Minnesota Vikings I was mentioning, Buffalo Bills franchise are losers and historically. And I just think this will be a very hard pill to swallow defeat under Cincinnati, and Joe Burrow gets to the AFC Championship once again from that and taking advantage of those holes on defense for Buffalo. And if only there was better circumstances, but it looks like I think Cincinnati is going to take this one and pull off the upset because they are the underdog here. And the final game of the weekend, Sunday night. This was now going to be this is a very interesting game, I think. And so does Vegas. So the Cowboys are going to Levi Stadium to take on the 49ers. And San Francisco is only opening at -4 even. So only 4 points for them. So from a lot of momentum with a huge win over Tampa Bay, where things seem to be clicking for the Cowboys offense and defense. But again, you are playing a very, very good 49ers team that's almost complete. How do you decide this game? We'll give it to the Cowboys fan to start.
Okay, so I just had an epiphany just now. So we all give the 49ers this great defense, ready? Amazing defense. Who the fuck have they played this year? They've played 4 playoff teams in 17 games, and only 3 of those teams are out of the playoffs in the first round. The only one that they did that is still in it is the Chiefs, and they got blown out by them. Who have they played? Since Purdy started? It's like Cardinals, Saints, Dolphins, Bucks, Seahawks, Commanders, Raiders, Cardinals, Rams. That's the winning streak. That's nothing. That's garbage. It's hot garbage winning. You're supposed to win those games. Now, the best offense that they played all season was the Chiefs, 44-23. They lost. The second best offense in the league is the Dallas Cowboys. I could easily see Dallas putting 40 points up on any given Sunday. Now, they're going in hot-handed. Nick Bosa is going to be Defensive Player of the Year. He's going to get MVP votes, this, that, the other thing. Fred Warner, Chandarius Ward on the outside. Have they seen an offense like the Dallas Cowboys offense yet? That regardless of turnovers the entire season still puts up the second most points per game. In my opinion, this is the worst matchup that the 49ers could have had in the divisional round. They did not want this game. They wanted Minnesota. And I think with our defense, we could pressure Purdy. In my opinion, I really don't find Deebo Samuel this crazy receiver. I think he's a great athlete, but I don't really see the hype in him as a receiver. I think he could easily get handled by our cornerback too. And Trayvon Diggs is going to guard Brandon Ayuk, and that's going to be a good fight. Kittle is going to probably be the one that hurts us the most. In years previous, we've been known we could play against CMC. And game managing doesn't really work against Dallas's defense. I think this is the game for us to win. We've seen the catch 2, the catch 3, the catch 4, so many catches. This year, it just feels like Dallas. After I've watched the Bucs game and I said, Dallas looks like a playoff team that I've never seen before. They have all the pieces. They have heart. And I never thought I would believe this. They actually like Mike McCarthy. I might not like him, but the players actually like Mike McCarthy. They're in it. He makes them have fun. There's passion. There's drive. So for that being said, I think the Dallas Cowboys beat the San Francisco 49ers by 10 points.
Ooh. Oh,
I'll
man,
say one thing with Mike McCarthy. I'll be an apologist. Listen, I know he's made some funky decisions, especially after a very bad first season. This guy isn't a terrible coach. He has won a Super Bowl. He has an amazing regular season record. I mean, let's look at if you compare him to Sean Payton, records are similar, and he hasn't had as many terrible losses. I mean, I understand there's some that could have gone a lot of fluky ones, especially with Aaron Rodgers towards the end. But all I'm saying is Mike McCarthy, I think, isn't as clowned as he should be. That's all I'm saying there. Because at the end of the day, if he really focuses and makes his team work, he is, a Super Bowl winning coach for a reason.
Yeah. I think the 49ers can be beat. I just don't know if the Cowboys can do it. I think it just comes down to it's a roster issue and a coaching issue, because even if Dak goes out and plays the game of his life and he's able to put up 30 points a game, maybe puts up 30 in this game, I don't know that Dallas's defense can stop the 49ers from scoring 35 points. Yeah. I mean, was it Dan Quinn, defensive coordinator?
Yeah.
He's been getting a lot of love, I think, unnecessarily recently. I mean, his defense has been getting shellacked for the last couple of months straight. I mean,
we've also been hurt though.
And you're still hurt. So I
mean, but we're getting people back though.
And you lost 3 more last night. So I mean, but
they're not out though. They're still probably going to play.
You don't have the right pieces in place to face this team. This team is stacked, and Shanahan might not be like a genius, but he's damn close. I mean, they scheme people wide open all the time. And between who do you cover? I mean, Ayuk, Kittle, Samuel, McCaffrey, even Juszczyk is a big thing in this offense. I mean, I don't think that you have the defense to stop this team. And so even if Dak goes out and has the game of his life and proves that he deserves this contract, scoring 31 points, I still think San Francisco finds a way to score 38 or 41. So, I mean, high scoring loss by the Cowboys, unfortunately.
Well, this defense isn't about this game plan shouldn't be about shutting down everyone. It's about mitigating. So in my opinion, it's about who do you want to try to shut down. In my opinion, that would be Christian McCaffrey. He's the best athlete on offense, easily on that team. Because you could live with a Brandon Ayuk catch and Deebo Samuel doing the stuff he does. We have a lot. We're very good with contain, so I'm not really worried about Deebo Samuel in the run aspect. Curse will guard Kittle. He's done it before, and he's done it well. In the playoff game last year, he did it well. I also think of it like this. Who was the head coach while Kyle Shanahan was offensive coordinator of the Falcons?
Dan Quinn.
Dan Quinn. So if anyone's going to know how to stop Kyle Shanahan, it's Dan Quinn.
I mean, to be fair, last point I'll make here, I actually want the Cowboys to win this game. For selfish reasons, of course. But I want the Cowboys
Peyton
to win
Manning
this
right
game.
now. I might walk away like Peyton Manning did.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Desmond, you might want to turn your camera off for that.
Yeah,
I'm serious. You know what? If the Eagles beat the Giants, it is better for the Eagles to face the Cowboys and the 49ers. I'm just thinking strategically here.
All right, fine.
I've never heard a guy who roots for an AFC team root for other AFC teams as much as I heard Desmond be like, "Yeah, I rooted for the Giants." No.
Yeah,
Hey,
that'll never be.
I'm playing the long game here, okay? First of all, the
Yeah,
49ers
I get
scare
it.
the hell
I
out
get
of me.
it.
You got to get through the Giants first, Desmond. They'll be looking forward.
I said if the Eagles beat the Giants, I'm knocking on all kinds of wood around here.
I'd be more afraid of playing Dallas in the NFC Championship game just because it's a divisional matchup, and I don't know. We always have your number. I feel like it's in the last decade.
You'd rather face a team you know than a team you don't. That's my philosophy.
I don't think San Francisco's that good, though. I think the defense is overrated.
We will check back in with you next week if you still feel the same way.
Yeah,
Brian,
that is a great banter there.
Looking into this game, I honestly think the key to the game is the Dallas defense, because we haven't really seen Purdy face adversity yet, and I'm excited to see what happens if they get pressure to him. But that's if Dallas gets to him. I mean, the 49ers have a pretty solid offensive line, but if they can get to him early, I think we can see an interesting game. But you guys know how great I think this 49ers team is. They're just deep all around. And I think they're going to be able to withstand Dallas. I think it's going to be a very close game. I don't think it's going to be a high scoring game. But I think the 49ers are going to walk away winning by maybe 3 or a touchdown at minimum. I think it's going to be a battle through and through. I wouldn't be surprised if Dallas wins, but I just think for the 49ers, as they showed many times before, are just going to be that great team and find a way to win.
I think I have the exact opposite prediction. I have San Fran walking away at least a 10-point victory in a high-scoring game. But I think it's because, but let me backtrack because I kind of buried the lead. I want to underscore why I think San Fran is the best team in the league. It's not that they can get Brock Purdy pressure and take him off his game, because we kind of expect that in terms of a game plan to destabilize the rookie in a high stakes situation like this. But he has so many pressure valves to alleviate the pain in terms of the run game with McCaffrey and Ayuk and Samuel. I mean, and Juszczyk, just like Desmond Price said, it's like he has so many weapons that he just needs to stay out of his own way. And I just trust Shanahan in a circumstance like this well beyond McCarthy. It kind of feels like the nephew outsmarting the uncle, like running around him in circles, like playing games with the uncle and like teasing him when I see the two of them in comparison, because it just seems that it's the new guard versus the old guard. And McCarthy kind of represents what that team is meant to be, which is Dallas playing old school football, ground and pound with play action. It just seems like a mismatch fundamentally. And I just think that San Francisco's defense is marketed up to what it could be. Like, it's exactly what it's meant to be. I think they are that good. And I think that this is probably the most clear cut decision in terms of a win out of the 4 games this weekend.
The way I think about it is, if the Raiders could do what they did to the 49ers, and Dallas could easily do that to the 49ers. And if any the worst offense the 49ers wanted to face would be Dallas. Out of any of the options they could have faced, we are the best offense to break them down because of our weapons and our multifaceted, ways of scoring. It's a very favorable matchup if you think about it. It's both offenses are mirror images of themselves in some degree.
I don't see that at all, but
I'm wondering about what this mirror looks like you're looking into.
I don't know. I see Brandon Ayuk. I think Michael Gallup. I see Brandon Ayuk. I think Michael Gallup. It's same similarities. I think a CeeDee Lamb.
Michael Gallup is not Brandon Ayuk.
Well, if you were looking before Michael Gallup tore his ACL, he was a better receiver than Brandon Ayuk, and he's
gonna have to go on that 90% with that leg.
Yeah, listen, he's playing well. He's starting to finally heal up. He's playing well. CeeDee Lamb outbeats both Ayuk and Deebo Samuel. Dalton Schultz has a better season the last 2 years than George Kittle has. And Tony Pollard is a
George Kittle's the best tight end in the NFC for a
and
reason.
he's always hurt.
And Dalton Schultz, but he hasn't been in the second half of the season. And especially with his combination of Brock Purdy, those two are a great combo together.
Yeah, and Dalton Schultz had almost 100 yards and 2 touchdowns last night. Barely,
against the Buccaneers team that arguably didn't deserve to be there.
Yeah, but the 49ers have played no one in the last 10 games.
Brian, you're falling into the trap of coveting yourself as a Dallas Cowboy fan. Don't measure
he stole it from me.
Don't measure your offensive success based on Tampa Bay's inability to play football.
I'm not doing that either. I won't say last night. I will say this, though. The San Francisco 49ers have played no one in the last 10 games of the season, and at least being in the NFC East where we have legitimate competition and playoff teams in our conference and in our schedule. We beat Detroit. They were near the playoffs teams. They were a hard team to beat. There's a lot of teams that we beat that are of competent caliber that you could say that was a good win. I see better wins by Dallas this year than San Francisco.
I appreciate your confidence, but I think it's going to lead. I don't care if you see it with your girlfriend as the good luck charm or your family. Listen, my whole life I've watched is the Cowboys going to embarrass themselves in the wild card round or the divisional round. And this is going to be another example of them embarrassing themselves in the divisional round. This is a much better 49ers team that is given credit. I think Nick Bosa will literally hit Dak Prescott's helmet off. I see the 49ers winning by at least 10 as well as Alex. And there's a reason why they're the best team in the NFC right now, and it's going to be legit. I'm sorry, bro, but I don't see the Cowboys having a chance.
I got to have some hope.
The irony of this moment that after all year of him, just knocking out his own team, at the time that he finally gets behind his team, we are all crushing him right now.
It's okay.
He's a good sport. He's a good sport, and we appreciate that.
I know what's going to happen. I've been doing these picks all season long on the hypotheticals, and I've really looked at the tape, and the team to beat San Francisco that has the best chance would be the Dallas Cowboys. That they could play.
It still hurts me because Brian is the most lovable, likable person in the world, but he just loves the worst team ever.
I'm relevant though. That's a lot of teams. A lot of teams can't say that. I'm relevant.
We'll give you that. But we appreciate you being a good sport in this, and I think it's going to be a fun game either way. But that's it, gentlemen. Divisional weekend is right up upon us. It was a very fun and good wildcard weekend, and we will have a lot to talk about recording Monday and be released to the public on Tuesday. But I appreciate each and every single one of you. That's Brian McKeon, Desmond Price, Alex Ranelli, and Alex Young. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Let us enjoy the soon-to-be historic weekend of football.